Hey guys, Dr. Tyler here. Today we're going to be doing low back stretching and a little bit of strengthening. I'm going to show you a lot of stretches that are going to help keep your low back loose, but we're also going to be talking about all the muscles around your pelvis and sacrum as well, and some that attach to your lumbar spine, your hamstrings, your quads, your hip flexors, your piriformis, your glutes. All of these play a vital role in your low back health because when they are chronically tight or imbalanced, it can cause an issue going into your low back or keep things from getting better. Couple things to be reminded of that I say in all of our stretch videos. Remember, consistency is key. Just like the rhythm of your adjustment patterns that we've got your schedule on. If you want results, you need to be consistent with stretching. Stretching every once in a while or when it's just tight or hurts isn't going to break any patterns, isn't going to improve anything in the long run. So try to be consistent on a daily pattern with this. And then second is to make sure that you know that you don't have to hold your stretches for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. You can do 3 sets of 15-second increments. You can do shorter than that. Whatever you need to do to start breaking that muscle pattern and build up. You can build up into those long stretches, but start small and work up. All right, we're going to start with low back stretches. So one of the first stretches you can do this in bed or at home. All you're going to do is just pull your knees to your chest and hold. You can variate this by doing one leg and trying to keep the other leg flat on the ground, and that'll also get some of your hip flexors involved. Another really good stretch you can do is called a supine twist. Supine means laying face up and then twisting. We're going to do a couple different variants of this. The first one you can do is bring your knees towards your chest and then let it fall over and hold it in that position. Go to the other side. And then what you can do if you want to change it up a little bit, you can keep one leg straight and let the other leg just come over. This is a little bit of a deeper stretch. And I'm stuck by this wall, but your goal is to try to get your leg to be able to touch your hand if it were straight out. And this is going to work that low back really well. It's also going to stretch your glutes really well. This next stretch is called pelvic tilt, so it's focusing on the tilting of your pelvis. This is going to help you if you know that you have some issues in rotation of your pelvis, if it ever feels like it's stuck. This one's a little harder, so try to listen to what I'm saying. You're going to want to lay flat, and the goal is to act like you're rotating your pelvis in and out. So first step is engage your core, pull it really tight, and then all you're going to do is act like you're rocking your pelvis while that core stays engaged. And this is more of an exercise than a stretch, but it works one and the same. So this is going to build strength and stretch that low back out at the same time. So you're going to be doing this in repetitions. This next stretch is kind of a stretch exercise mix. It's called the dead bug, so it's going to help build some core, but also loosen up your back and also stretch out your legs as well. So you're definitely going to want some space for this one, and it's always going to be opposite arm, opposite leg. And so what I can do is bring my arm straight up and my opposite leg straight up, and then you can open up and come back. Now, you can keep the other leg rested on the ground like this, but if you need more of a challenge or you're ready to upgrade, keep that leg elevated while you do that. And you're going to alternate that and do the other side as well. And you can see I'm switching it up. I'm going straight leg, I'm going bent knee, but both of these are okay, just depending on your level that you want to be at. This next stretch is actually the reverse of the dead bug. It's called bird dog. So same thing, opposite leg, opposite arm. So you're going to start on all fours, and I'm going to go right hand with left leg, and you're going to go just like this. Another good stretch exercise is a yoga pose called cat camel. So you're going to be on all fours again. And what you're going to do is work on just rotating your pelvis and engaging your core. So you're going to let your belly sink and push your butt back. And then you're going to do the camel, where you let that low back arch, and then you come back. And so you can do this in stretches where you go here and hold for 15 seconds, here and hold for 15 seconds, or you can do repetitions where you're in constant motion. All right, this next stretch is a great yoga pose. It's called child's pose. Now this is going to be for your low back, but this is also going to be for any part of your spine. If you have any kind of compression in your spine, if you have any of arthritis, inflammation building up in your spine, or you just want to get some good movement in your upper back to your lower back, this is going to be great for you. So all you're going to do is best you can sit your butt on your heels, and then let your arms go up and slide up. And I start grabbing usually to see how far upwards I can go. Now obviously, if it's hard for you to sit back on your heels, you can stay up. Just try to bend just like this. And let your head sink down towards the floor. So next we're going to be doing stretches that target your glutes and your piriformis muscle. Glutes are running across your pelvic bridge and then go down and attach to your hip. But the piriformis muscle is really important, especially if you have low back pain or sciatic pain. It runs from your sacrum over onto the hip, and your sciatic nerve runs right through here. So imagine with this muscle being tight, what it's going to do to this nerve. So it's really important to be taking care of this muscle on a normal basis. There is a variant number of ways to do a piriformis stretch. You can do it seated, laying down, or even standing. I always show it seated because a lot of people are sitting a lot during the day, or they're driving, or when they're getting out of bed. This is a good stretch to do. All you're going to do is put the affected leg, or the piriformis you're trying to stretch, cross it over Indian style. So the first thing you can do is just lean forward, and you should feel a stretch. An upgrade to this stretch is lean forward and push this knee down. And you'll really feel it across that glute line. So this is another way to stretch out that piriformis muscle, similar to what we said when we're seated. You're going to do similar position. You're going to cross one leg over the other, like Indian style, but rather than leaning forward or trying to do a sit-up, you're just going to pull the other leg toward your chest, just like this. So this last stretch is also for the piriformis. It's just another variant of what we've been doing. It's the hardest one, so make sure you have a support hold to be holding on to while doing this stretch. It's going to stretch your piriformis, but also a little bit of your IT band and that muscle that runs underneath your IT band. So all you're going to do is cross that leg over and sit down. Another really good stretch for the glutes, and this is kind of one of those stretches exercises, are glute bridges. Sit like you're about to do a sit-up, but rather than coming up, all you're going to do is lift your hips and butt up towards the ceiling. So similar to some other stretches, you can do this in repetitions, or you can do holds. You can work up and hold here for a certain amount of time, or you can do repetitions. And we already did this stretch, but that supine twist where you're laying flat on your back and you're working your legs over and across, that's another really good stretch to work on your glutes and your piriformis muscle. These next set of stretches we're going to do are for your hamstrings. Now those are the big muscles that run down from your glutes all the way down to behind your knee. The reason it's so important is your hamstrings attach right here on this bone. So this is the bottom of your pelvis. So imagine if that hamstring is tight, what it does to your pelvis. It can rock it back and forward. So the first stretch you can do, everybody knows this one. All you're going to do is bring your feet together, bend down and touch your toes and hold. You can open up your legs, reach down towards your right leg. This is going to be hamstrings and a little bit of glutes in your adductors. Do that on both sides, and then obviously you can come straight down to the middle. If you would rather do this seated, you can do that same exact stretch, but seated. Lean forward and try to touch your toes. Obviously I need to stretch my hamstrings. You can do each leg like this. And sometimes it's good if you have a partner to have them push right here in your upper back and try to push you forward. So next we're going to be talking about your quads and how to stretch those. Your quads are these big muscles that run across the front of your leg. They're called quads because that means 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they attach to the front of your pelvic brim and also to your hips. So any kind of pressure there can cause some hip pressure and also cause that pelvis to rotate. So one of the easiest stretches that you can do for your quads is a simple lift up and pull with your leg. And you can pull that up towards your glutes. And to get a better stretch, try to keep your chest upright, and that'll stretch that muscle even more. Another really good quad stretch is using what's called the couch stretch or the kneeling stretch. Now this is much more difficult, but this is one of the best stretches for your quads. And all you're going to do is prop your foot up on a chair and lean back, and you'll really feel it up towards the groin area. So this is a really, really good stretch for your quads. Next, we're going to be talking about your adductor muscles. Those are the muscles that run inside your groin and run across your knee or down your knee, but some of them can run across. There's a lot of adductor muscles. There's little ones and big ones, and so they're really important to be stretching. And obviously they run on the pelvic brim, run down your legs, some attach on the hip. So we've already done this one before, but a really good one you can do here is a good wide stance. Bend down and touch your toes or touch the floor. Side to sides with this and hold those in different directions. And then you can get a deeper stretch, and what you can do is lean towards one leg and open up the other leg, and you'll really feel that run inside of your leg here. And do that on both sides. Another good stretch for the adductors and groin is the butterfly stretch. So a lot of you might remember when you were in elementary school, we would do this stretch. The gym teacher would have you flutter. Don't flutter this, just push with the outside of your elbows, push down the most you can. And once you get to that in range of motion, just hold there, but don't do any kind of fluttering. This next stretch is a little awkward, but it is really good for the inner groin. It's called the clamshells. So these are very specific, and you might have seen them during yoga. So how to be really specific with this is get in a really neutral position. Don't be moving a lot. You're going to put your hand on the top of your pelvic brim, and all you're going to do is you're going to just try to move your glutes and pelvis. You're not going to rock forward and back. You're going to just open up your legs like this. And you can see even there I rocked a little bit, so the more stable that you can be, you'll feel it better. And you can bring your legs in and go high. You can go out a little bit and go up, but the best is definitely kind of the middle of the ground. And you're just going to open up your pelvis, and you'll feel it in your glutes, and you'll feel it in those adductors and groin muscles. All right, last stretch for your adductors and groin. So this one is really easy. It's just called hip pushes. But all you're going to do is kind of push one hip into the other. So I'm pushing my right hip to my left hip. Just like that. And go wider for a little bit of a deeper stretch, and you'll really feel it inside of your groin and that adductor muscle. Be careful with this. A lot of people push too fast and they'll cramp on the outside, so be real slow with it, be controlled, and just push that hip over. And then obviously do that on both sides. The last muscle group we're going to discuss is your hip flexors. Now this is an overlooked muscle group, but it's an essential muscle group. A lot of people who have hip pain have extremely tight hip flexors. Obviously, if you're sitting a lot during the day, your hip flexors are always activated and they can become really tight. But the reason this is so important is it attaches in many areas. It attaches your hip, attaches your pelvis, it attaches to your lumbar spine. It's called your iliopsoas muscle, your hip flexor, and it runs through your body and comes and attaches to your lumbar spine. So it can cause hip pain, it can cause low back pain, it can cause pelvic pain. So we're going to really hit this guy hard. The easiest hip flexor stretch is a staggered stance stretch. So if I'm trying to stretch my right hip flexor, all I'm going to do is bring my right leg back, straighten both legs. You can do it a couple ways. First way to do it is just lean back. Now if you want to add a little extra, you're going to lean back and act like you're pushing that right hip forward. And then after that, you can do a lean back, push the hip forward, and rotate outwards, and rotate inwards. So those are 4 different ways to do a staggered stance stretch. Now what we're gonna do next is a little bit more advanced. It's called the Warrior. If you've ever done any kind of P90X or Insanity, you've seen this stretch. And I'm gonna do it from this position so you can see it better. So I'm stretching my right hip flexor. I'm gonna put both hands on the ground and I'm gonna bring my back leg up and really sit forward into that stretch. Most people know Warrior has a lot of different positions as well. So you can have both hands on the ground. You can rotate inward, you can rotate outward, or you can just stay neutral. The last stretch we're gonna do for the hip flexors is called the pigeon stretch. So it's similar to the Warrior. You're gonna be on the ground, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my leg in just like this, and I'm gonna sit back, and I'm gonna let my back leg go back, and I'm gonna open this up a little bit more. So this is pretty difficult in itself. If you want to go further down, you can come all the way down with your elbows on the ground, or you can just stay right here. And then obviously we have the tool called the TheraBall. You can also use a lacrosse ball, or even sometimes a tennis ball or softball. They're not as hard, so a TheraBall is going to be best for you. Once again, I'm not going to go through every single muscle group on how to use the TheraBall. Rule of thumb though, you can go 1 of 2 ways on a muscle. If I'm trying to use a TheraBall on my quads, I can roll that TheraBall with the grain, which can help some, but the best result is going to be going against the grain. So my quads run this way, so running against the grain and working up and down with that TheraBall is going to help a lot. So once again, you can use this on any of these muscle groups. Your low back, if you're trying to do your low back, similar with a foam roller for the low back, rolling it up and down your low back. You can run that TheraBall in those little crevices inside and hit those trigger points and try to get some release on your low back. So we went over a ton of stretches today for your low back, but also for all the surrounding muscles, your legs, your glutes, your piriformis, your hip flexors, so on and so forth. Briefly, I want to talk about strengthening. Now, that's a whole different realm because right now, a lot of people come in with pain, they've had a chronic tightness, and so we're really trying to stretch those muscles. One of the best ways to relieve lower back pain when it comes to strengthening is to strengthen your core. And this is how I always explain it to people. You know, if you're having low back pain and all the pressure's sitting back on your spinal column, your spinal cord, and your nerves, what muscle group can you strengthen to take pressure off? Your core. So doing core exercises is going to be really essential in balancing that low back, but to take a lot of pressure off of it and put it more on those core muscles. A lot of people ask me as well, you know, at the gym, what do I need to be doing? You know, different imbalances need different strength, different stretches, but most gyms are equipped with machines that work with all of the muscle groups. So just make sure that you're checking out those machines, looking at what muscle groups they work out. I mean, if you have chronically tight hamstrings, you probably need to be stretching your hamstrings, not strengthening your hamstrings. But if you have chronically tight quads and weak hamstrings, stretch your quads, strengthen your hamstrings. And so we got to get that muscle balance.